14 September 2023. This is, of course, another what the fuck moment, and I have to talk about it. We do have a severe threat to all of us. And if I say us, I'm talking about us, the normal, average citizen, the bulk of the population. And the problem is not only in South Africa, the problem is in the whole of the Western world. We have allowed a deadly monster to breed and overpopulate our lives and our environment. And they're called politicians. And I have done Skidmarks on that. But you have to look at the reality of this. Look at the politician. They actually have an excellent business plan. First of all, they have a guaranteed revenue stream. No risk. There's no risk in that revenue stream. Plus, that revenue stream includes a massive amount of fringe benefits. That's the first point. No risk to their revenue. Secondly, they have zero accountability. Zero. So whatever decisions they make, if it goes wrong, they never answer for that. They never kept accountable for it. They never lose anything from their decisions. So that makes them a fantastic business opportunity. And that is why so many youngsters thrive and put massive effort in to get into that business of being a politician. Now, in the old days, I must understand, I'm an old guy. I've seen these things develop. These professional politicians started appearing around about the late 50s, the early 60s. Up to that stage, in broad general terms, the politicians that were sent to Parliament or to whatever the structures are in your country were accountable to their constituents, their voters. But slowly but surely, that accountability shifted from being accountable to the population that voted for them and who they are supposed to be representing. Their alliance moved to, yes, XXX. Today, it is absolutely impossible, well, I wouldn't say impossible, but close to impossible, to find a politician that is not in alliance with XXX. But now you must think about this. XXX, they are the guys that are making the money. They are the guys that are really collecting the wealth. And the politicians is part of their workforce, because it is the politicians in every country that must ensure that the environment for XXX is perfect. And the politicians have no options because they are in that, let's call it a tribe of XXX. They're in the XXX tribe. They are the lowest form of life in the XXX environment. In other words, they are the expendables. XXX makes or breaks politicians, not the voters. XXX does that. And they are ruthless with it. Now, let's look at us, the population. Our lives today is totally controlled by XXX via the politicians. It was politicians that pushed the drive for us to accept these weirdos with their weird sexual things. It was the politicians that poisoned our religion. It is the politicians that are poisoning our children in the schools. It is the politicians that control your work environment. It is the politicians that make the decisions that will in the end lead to how you will get medical treatment, how you will get to food, how you will live and where you will live. Politicians do that. Never forget that. So that politicians have got total control over our lives. We tend to push the blame to XXX. Yes, XXX is the apex predator. But the politicians, they are the army. They are the security services. They are the health services. They are the food production services. They, the politicians, are all of that controls all of us. We cannot get a politician out of his seat. We cannot. Look at what happened now here in South Africa with that public protector. How many years have they been battling to get her out of her position? How much did it cost us? Not XXX, us. We paid for that fight. So, as you can see, politicians is the main threat to all of us. And that is why I've been preaching about this thing that people need to get back to their tribes. And it is only the tribes that can break the power of the politicians, and then by definition the power of XXX over our lives. The tribes. But we have a problem here in South Africa. A lot of the indigenous tribal leaders has also been corrupted and co-opted into the XXX tribe. So, we the people need to take our rights back. Take it back. Bring it back to the tribal level. The tribes themselves need to sort these corrupt tribal leadership out. And the tribes can do that quickly, because the tribe don't need to go through 729 fucking lawsuits to get a corrupt tribal leader out. They throw him out. One meeting and he's out. And there's nowhere he can appeal or what. He's out. But we, on tribal level, has been punched to such an extent that we believe we are powerless. Where the reality is, we have all the power. They made us believe we don't have power. Why? Because we comply to their shit. Look what they did to us in the pestilence. Now you must make a very good mental note about that. That was a trial run to see how many of the tribal people will comply. And we as the tribal people failed that test spectacularly. Spectacularly. Fuck. People were actually storming the stores to get that useless fucking piece of cloth around their faces. Families drove family members out that refused to comply. Now, 2-3 years after the fact, we see the results of that fucking experiment. We see it. Where do we see it? In the cemeteries, in the hospitals, in the frail care units. But still, we don't do anything about it. Never forget it. XXX has got a well-published goal to reduce the Earth's population by 85%. You must think about that. That means if you are 10 people in your house, 8.5, so call it maar 9, must go. Who will make the decision which 9 must go? XXX has already showed you who will the 9 be. Look at those that are carrying that cloth. Look at those that allowed that snake bite. Those are the guys that are going to go first. Why will they go first? Because they complied. And then we get to our food source. Here in South Africa, there is another monster silently breeding and propagating itself right in front of your eyes. And that little tribe is built on the principle of farming of scale. You must think about this. With 40,000 small, medium, private farms, not 40,000, yes, let's keep it to 40,000 farmers. They can produce a hell of a lot of food and a hell of a lot of variety for the people. But if you replace that 40,000 with 4 or 5 mega farmers, you're sitting with a situation that point number 1, that mega farmers, most of them are part of the XXX tribe. They will only plant what XXX tell them they must plant. That's what they will plant. They are converting all the crops to GMO crops. Think about the danger of that GMO crop. You cannot use seeds from those GMO plants to plant next year. You must go and buy fresh seed from XXX. So, if something happens and the GMO seeds are no longer available, the population is screwed in any case. Because what will they plant? Because these GMO plants are destroying the heirloom plant. Go and look what the Russians did. I think it's about 15 years ago already. Putin banned all GMO out of Russia. And look at the Russian food production. But here in South Africa, the GMO is just spreading more and more and more and more and more. And unfortunately, the subsistence farmers feels it first, because that GMO screws the pollination of non-GMO plants. So the harvest is buggered, to say the least. The good word is fucked, because that is what it is. So, they have got control over our health, education, religion, where you may live, how you must work, where you must work, what your environment must look like. Plus, they are at a frightening speed taking control over the food production. And it is with the food that they will finally control you. There are crazy places in America where they're already banning people to have vegetable gardens in their gardens. They're banning small production of natural foodstuff, herbs and things like that. But it happens in front of our eyes. And who is the driving force behind all this cuck? Politicians. Politicians has got America into all the wars. Politicians destroyed Europe's economy with their green shit and sanctions against Russia and all of that. But the European population does not see the danger because they lose their opportunities to earn a living slowly, not like that, slowly. So today this guy loses his job, next week his neighbor loses his job, but in the meantime that job losses happens all over the whole country in small numbers so that the locals don't see it. Exactly what happened with the snake bite. The main thing behind the snake bite, for which they were fucking careful with, is that you drop down within hours after you got the shot. Yes, it happened, but in relatively low numbers. The major fuck up is now becoming visible. If you look at birth rates and fertility rates and look at how life expectancy has dropped in America, apparently it is something like 10 years that are being skinned off the life expectancy. So none of these things happen like that. All of it is slow acting. Why? So that the population, the slaves, keep on working. Because the politicians get these obscene salaries, but it is us, the people, that does the work and generate the revenue that the politicians feed on. Someone with more skills and knowledge than me should go and take a look at the South African Parliament and see what percentage of the state revenue goes to them, directly and indirectly. And you will freak out. I mean, you look at local councils. A mayor that earns R1 million a month is not funny. It's a natural thing. The problem is, whatever those politicians are earning, they do not contribute to revenue generation of 1 cent. All the money that goes into them stays with them. That's why I say politics is a perfect business model for XXX, but deadly to us, the people. It is time that we, the people, must understand that yes, XXX is a monster, but the parasites that sits on that monster, like ticks, is the politicians, and they are the ones that will destroy us with all these things about controlling our workplaces, controlling our businesses, controlling our lives, controlling our schools, controlling everything, controlling our health services, all of that. Politicians do that. Just for a moment, recap what happened during the pestilence. I have seen numbers where they reckon that around about $42 billion have been sucked out of the middle class with all the lockdown rules and all of that around the snakebite. 42 billion. Triple X gained $48 billion in wealth. That is a major wealth transfer. And we can see it when you look at the hundreds of small shops that has closed and never reopened. The hundreds of small workshops that closed and never reopened. I've seen numbers that they reckon in South Africa. Small businesses, 1.4 million of them were destroyed. Now, you need to expand that 1.4 million number and say, on average, each one of those small businesses had 5 employees. So take the 1.4 million times 5 and gives you 7 million jobs gone. 7 million livelihoods destroyed. 7 million. Think about that. And then think about that fucking politician sitting there that made these rules. They actually got a salary increase during that period. They didn't lose 1 cent. They actually gained a lot of, let's call it, recreational luxury. Because all of a sudden, everybody was working from home and these fuckers were sitting in their mansions. They didn't even go to Parliament anymore. I mean, Parliament became redundant. They actually fucking burnt the place down. But the fact of the matter is, they were cozy, sitting in their houses, in their mansions that me and you paid for, getting that massive salaries, getting all that fringe benefits, plus they're lounging around in their house in their bathing suits and in their fucking track suits and in their casual wear, and they appear on Zoom meetings, just see the head, and that's the story. You have to ask yourself, how the fuck is that possible? They prosper under that draconian regime. And we, the guys that actually make the money that they get paid with, we suffered like hell. So I don't care whether you're black, brown, white, yellow, pink, what the fucking color you are, what race you are, what ethnic group you are. We are all screwed. All of us. And as I've said here, now, look how the politicians prospered under that draconian regime instructions, and how the people suffered. What happened? Let's take a simple job, a domestic worker, earning 3,500 rand a month, 4,000 rand a month. Yes, that is not a huge salary compared to what a politician gets, 400,000 rand a month. But to that domestic worker, that means food and a livelihood for his or her family. The politicians destroyed that because they destroyed the small business where the owner was making the money with which he was paying the domestic worker. So that domestic worker has become unemployed and must now be happy with 350 rand a month SASSA. Think about these things and let it sink in. And it must be a major mental shift for a person to realize that we have to step back a few large steps into history and revert back to tribal control. If we don't do that, we are all doomed. Back to the tribes, because it's only the tribes that can effectively neutralize the politicians and Triple X. That is unfortunately the cold reality. Only the tribes will survive. And if you are one of those unfortunate selected with zero cultural ties to your tribe and zero roots in your tribe, you must understand that is by design, because the ultimate goal is 85% must go and nobody will own anything and be happy about that. I'm not happy with that. Please give me a like and subscribe and share the thing.